Join us now for our third panel session of Club Talentsoft. In this panel titled New Leadership, Expectations for the New Normal, we understand that there's no going back to the way things were before. Talentsoft's Chief People Officer, Shana Roy, talks to HR experts from Canada and Europe about what's in store for leaders. Make sure to add your questions in the chat as we go through this panel.
Thank you, Kyla. Hello and welcome to this panel session, New Leadership Expectations for the New Normal. We are delighted to spend the next 20 minutes with people from all around the world. My name is Shana Roy and I am the Chief People Experience Officer at Talentsoft. I'm joined today by Manon Poirier, who is the CEO of the Ordre des conseillers en ressources humaines agréées in Canada. Manon has more than 25 years of experience in the human resources field, and before joining the Ordre, Mrs. Poirier was Vice President of Human Resources at the YMCAs of Quebec. Hello Manon, and welcome to this panel.
Thank you, Shana. Good afternoon, everyone.
My other panelist today is Steven Danilevich, Head of Talent Management Section at OPCW. Steven has built his career as an HR professional within the public sector, both in the United Kingdom and internationally. He is responsible for recruitment and selection, learning and development, and performance management at OPCW. Steven, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Shana. Hello, Manon, and good afternoon, everyone.
So before we dive into today's topic, I just wanted to let our audience know that at any time you can ask our speakers your questions using the chat box that you can see on your screen. We will respond after the event of the Talentsoft community. For more information, please visit the Talentsoft community stand on this platform. So now let's get started, Manon and Steven. So as both of you know, we've been through a special context over the past 2 months. So many things have changed in our life. And I think that we could all imagine from the beginning that maybe it was just one extraordinary situation and that we would go back to our normal life. And then the situation has been moving quite a little bit. And now we might think that this COVID-19 is setting kind of a new normal. I would be very interested to hear you about the new normal. And what are the challenges of this new normal that we are entering in? Steven, what do you think about this?
Thank you, Shana. An interesting question. I mean, for us, we're looking at the new normal as going back to business as usual. But for me, I don't think that it's something that we can do. And I don't necessarily think it's something that we should be doing. The situation that we've got and all of the challenges that have given us, really, I think has given us an opportunity to look backwards and to look forwards at the current situation and to assess ourselves and to assess work. And I believe that we should really be looking to learn from how we've had to adapt to the new situation. And it's given us the opportunity to look at work socially and work from the home base as well. And I think we should take some steps towards the positives that we can take out of this. But at the same time, we also really need to look at the things that we want to do differently, the negative things, if you like, that we have in the past. So I'm not really sure that it's an opportunity to go back to business as usual. I think technically, procedurally and psychologically, we have to prepare, we have to move forward. In terms of infrastructure and buildings, I think that's easy enough. Procedurally, similarly, we've got to make sure that we follow the rules of the Dutch government here in The Hague. The most important thing is going to be looking to prepare our people and the psychological preparedness to come back to work. And that's where I think we have an issue about this back to normal, because I don't know that we can. People's experiences over the crisis have meant that they've had to adapt. It's meant that there are different norms. And the problem with that is it's raised expectations. I know with my staff, a number of them have come up with all sorts of questions about, do I need to work in the office? What are the advantages of me traveling to go to work? I can work perfectly well at home. I'm more productive at home. And what we need to be able to do is look at those challenges and look at managing those expectations. There is going to be an understandable push for change, but I think it's important to make sure that we take that into account. Don't lose sight of the whole.
Thank you, Steven. What about you, Manon? What's your thought about this all?
Yeah, in your intro, Shana, you refer, I think we thought at one point that there would be a before and after COVID. Now we realize it's working and living with COVID for quite a while, I think. Of course, there will be a different set of norm. Obviously, the most obvious one is about health and safety. You know, organizations that are going back or went back had to look at their office space, the plan, the space, everything, so people are not too close. Obviously, we have to, there's a new set of tension that I see in organization where some people have a high level of stress and anxiety about being in the office or at work and close to colleagues, and some other are more casual about it. And I think nobody's right, nobody's wrong, but we have to understand these two ways of looking at the situation and the risk that people are willing or not willing to take. So this is the short-term concerns that really is changing the face of going back to work. I think that the situation put forward the issue of mental health, because we talked about the physical health, obviously, but the topic of mental health came often, and I think it's a good thing because there were still some taboo around mental health and people that had to deal with those problems or not. I think people realize that it can happen to everyone, and how fragile sometimes we are in situation, and recognizing that we need to ask for help and it's okay to ask for help. So I think going further, I think this is a positive outcome of what we're living, that we can be more open about mental health. Obviously, some organization realized that they needed to be more agile, more connected. I know some organization that wanted to work remotely, but no one had a portable PC. You know, they all had PC, so they could not work from home so quickly. They had to figure it out. So I think more agility, the ability to make decision more quickly, sound decision, not panicking, but more quickly, and obviously have technology available to make sure that we could continue to work from a distance.
Thank you, Manon. You were mentioning about the leadership, and some believe that true leadership and then leaders emerge in crisis. That's for sure that we've seen different type of behaviors during this context, maybe some good surprises, some more or less bad surprises. What have you noticed, and what does it mean from your point of view in the leader's profile that we might be looking for in the future? Stephen, can you talk to me a little bit more about this?
Yes, certainly, Shana. I think the interesting thing is that a lot of the qualities that we expect in leaders before the crisis are the same as we've been expecting afterwards. They maybe bring them into focus a little bit more. But to me, the good managers are the ones that are communicating with their staff, are engaging with them, are allowing them more accountability. By remote working, we're having to supervise differently. It's a very much different atmosphere of work at the moment. But I don't think that the qualities in the leaders are any different. We've noticed a mindset shift, if you like, in relation to the leaders, because what we had before was very much a situation when we left to go remote working. You're just going to work at home and you're going to produce the same that you did when you were at work, just from home. And we've actually realised that that's not the case. You know, the things that are impacting on remote working are affecting what people can produce. And the leaders who have the trust and the availability or the ability to engage with their staff are actually finding a much better relationship with them now. And I think that positive strength was there before, but it's been highlighted really as a part of the remote working. And I've found myself that I'm actually getting to know my staff more being remote. You know, by having to communicate more remotely, I'm actually beginning to understand them more, realise what makes them tick more. And I think that's something that we've noticed in terms of the good managers, is they're beginning to be able to go beyond empathy with their staff and actually to have compassion to be able to do something after empathising with their situation.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Manon, what do you think about this all?
Yeah, I do agree with Stephen that the leadership skills that were positive or are positive during this crisis were the same that we were looking for. But I'd say that was quite recent in history of leadership. I think over the years we've shifted, and there was a time where leaders need to be the one that knew it all, that people would follow. And then in the past year, we've seen that leaders that actually are successful are the ones that are close to their staff. They're empowering their people. They do not take all the decision. They build trust. They inspire trust, and they build trust. They trust their staff. So, but I think this crisis highlighted the need in organization for these type of skill sets. And I think that the leaders that are succeeding right now are the ones that already had this DNA of communicating, empowering, having an ongoing dialogue with their staff. And obviously the crisis probably required adapting some working remotely. As a manager, you need to act differently, but some people kind of went to more control, which was not the way to go. I think, again, even if you're remotely and maybe you're more tactical in your conversation, you're not as strategic, but you're more tactical because you want to build short-term success, it does not mean more control. And I do agree that it was the occasion to know our staff a bit more, because understanding their reality at home, as maybe as a parent, as someone supporting elderly, you actually had to go there, and it was accepted that you could cross that line that sometimes we're uncomfortable as manager to kind of dive into private life, because everything is kind of blurred together. And I think that managers that showed genuine interest in their staff and what they were going through are the ones that are able to engage staff and making sure that the organization continues positively.
Thank you very much, Manon and Stephen. And I was wondering, when I was listening to you, we've been talking about mainly soft skills of those leaders and managers. And I think that we've been challenged over the past years on this. And do you really believe that we can walk the talk on this? And what I mean by this is that clearly it means that maybe when we're recruiting people, that we might be focusing more on the soft skills instead of the hard skills, and then take courageous decision and say, okay, I might pick that person even if the hard skills are not all there, but I'm pretty sure with those soft skills that that person will be a great leader. But we are conscious of the reality as well in our businesses. So do you believe that we will be able to really move forward and walk the talk on this? What do you think about this, Manon?
I do hope so, obviously, but I sometimes I think as human beings, we're quick to go back to the good old ways. And I think a lot of organizations are under pressure. They're financially at risk. So sometimes when there's more pressure, there's more risk. I think we go back to what we know best. So hopefully the situation, I obviously don't want the situation to continue, but I hope it will have a permanent impact on organization, that we can value those soft skills, that we look for it in recruitment and selection and promotion processes, so that we're able to look, to take some time as an organization somewhere to just do a post-mortem and see what made our success, how can we build on it, and hopefully identify those leadership skills that were positive, that created value, and try to reproduce them in the future.
Thank you, Manon. What about you, Stephen?
Yeah, similarly, I have great hopes that we can make some change. I think that one of the first things we need to do is actually change from within. So rather than looking at just what we're going to be recruiting, what I'm really hoping is that we're able to coach and develop our managers in-house that we have currently, so that we're able to develop those particular skills and really get them to understand, what it is to communicate with your staff, what it is really to listen to them. And I think that as we do that, as we build that strength within, there's the opportunity then to recruit into that. These are managers that will be recruiting for posts. So if we can get them to understand the needs, then hopefully they can bring that forward in the recruitment and looking at the leaders for the future. And I think it's something that we should really focus on. The idea of sort of learning the lessons and doing a post-mortem, I think is critical. What we're looking to do is we have a knowledge management sort of section, if you like, and what we're already doing is trying to collect the lessons that people have learned, good, bad, or whatever, and we're trying to centralize those. So we have an understanding of what people felt were a success, what people felt were not perhaps as successful, and then we can learn from that. So I think this is really important, is to look at that. But on the other hand, the other thing that we've got to be really careful is not to get too taken away and carried away with the fact that we've survived this crisis and we've innovated and we've made fantastic steps forward, and we lose our identity. You know, we lose what the organisation was before. The OPCW has a particular mandate, has a particular persona, if you like, within the environment in which it works. And I think we have to be careful not to lose that. You know, we need to marry the two together so that we have the benefits for the future, but also we have a history and we have a heritage, and we can't lose that as well.
Thank you very much, Stephen. So before I ask you my final questions, I just wanted to remind our audience that they can ask their questions by using the chat box, and we will respond after the event of the Talentsoft community. So on my final question, so from what I hear from you two, on one hand, we're looking ahead at the future and at all the building blocks that we really need to reinforce and nourish every good aspect that we've observed. But also on the other hand, we're kind of cautious to remain down to earth, because we are realistic about what can happen, and you mentioned it. And we are facing many challenges while going back to a kind of new normal. So I would be interested to hear you about, do you see technology helping us in this all? What do you think about this, Stephen?
Yeah, I think that technology can help. Technology will take us forward. But at the same time, we mustn't lose sight of the fact that it's people that are going to be using the technology. I mean, an example that I have is we've been really well connected at work. They've provided us with laptops. We've got Zoom, Teams, we've got WhatsApp. We've got all sorts of ways of keeping connected. The only problem I've got is I'm over connected. I now don't have the ability to think, you know, and there seems to be a pressure to answer that WhatsApp, that email, that team request immediately. And I feel that the technology is great and it helps, but we mustn't lose sight of the fact that this is something that we need to manage. And I think that, yeah, technology is the way forward. We mustn't lose the human context, the fact that we are humans using that. I mean, it sounds a bit twee, if I can say that, but we mustn't lose the fact that we're the ones using the technology, and we mustn't become overwrought by it, I don't think.
Thank you, Stephen. Manon, what do you think about the technology?
Yes, well, obviously it is the way forward. Thankfully, we had technology in the past months, because otherwise I think the world would have been different. Both personally and professionally, we needed to be connected with all these new technology. I do agree with Stephen that there's no place where we can actually disconnect, right? Home and work is all because of technology is present, so it's hard to make that cut and have time to reflect and not feel that you need to respond all the time. But I also think in terms of technology, technology needs to help humans make decisions. It needs to help humans spend more time doing what humans should do, which is collaboration, innovation, taking care of our colleagues. And I think there's probably in the HR world, technology for me is also data. And I think the HR professional in general are not using to their full potential the data that we have. So we have lots of data. We should use data more strategically to make sure that we're proactive, we support our just the way we support our clients, so that we support our employees. So to me, data analysis is something that HR need to look at, and technology is obviously very helpful. And I think there's a lot of technologies. I think a few years ago, you would have asked me all the HR related technologies. I could name all the companies, let's say in Canada, that existed. Today, it's just impossible. In 3 years, it totally bloomed. And sometimes as an organization, you need to reflect carefully before you adopt a new technology, to be very conscientious of the reason why you're adapting a new technology. It's not just because it's the new thing, right? So sometimes as an individual, we need to have the latest gadget, but as an organization, before you invest time and money and people learning this new technology, you have to understand why you're using it and what value it brings. And as an example, I think in Canada, at least in the past 2 years, there's been a lot of real-time polling employees, so sending survey every week, so to kind of see how morale is, and which is great, and it applies this concept of ongoing feedback and making sure we're in touch with employees. But what you're doing with this is key. So don't ask every week question on your morale and how things are if you're not going to do anything about it, because you're only going to build cynicism within your workforce. So it looks good, it sounds good, but really, why are you doing it? What value it has, and what are you going to do after with the data that you're going to produce?
Thank you very much, Manon. Manon and Steven, it has been a really interesting and insightful conversation. Thank you so much. For sure, we've been through different challenges over the past 2 months, good key learnings about this context. You've said it, both of you, but also some downsides or point of attention at least. And it stressed the importance of talking about it, taking a step back. And it seems to be key to take this step back instead of rushing to a solution that might not necessarily cover the need and be perceived, as it was said, as artificial and unnecessary. So let's think first about what we want to do and then focus our energy and tooling on whatever we'll need to support this to make sure that it's relevant and impactful. So I hope you all enjoyed this discussion, and we look forward to reading the questions you sent us. We will answer very soon on the Talentsoft community. Manon, Steven, thank you again. I'm Shana Roy. Goodbye.